Today on Rainbow Country, British rocker Tom Robinson and PR expert Diane Foy. Stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on CIUT 89.5 FM.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Rainbow Country, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. As always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm Mark Tara. So, this is episode 185. Today, PR expert, personal brand coach, and podcaster, Diane Foy. Plus, British rocker, singer-songwriter, broadcaster on BBC Six Music, Tom Robinson. So, during North America's first World Pride held in Toronto in 2014, I caught up with Tom Robinson to talk about his 1978 Top 20 UK hit, Glad to Be Gay. Up next, Tom Robinson.
My name's Tom Robinson, and I grew up in Britain in the 1960s. I was a teenager with the Beatles, and at that time in Britain, being gay meant you went to prison for 4 years. And I fell in love with another boy at school at age 15, and I would rather have died than tell anybody that I was in love with this other guy, including him. And that was the option I chose. I actually tried to take my life at age 16. And I went to a therapeutic community for 6 years. And when I came out, I went to the opposite extreme. I really did come out. I moved to London where nobody knew me. And instead of dying of shame for being in love with somebody of the same sex, I kind of literally made a song and dance about it and became part of the gay community that was born in the wake of the gay liberation movement post-Stonewall. And I wrote a number of songs at the time, but there was a slogan that was very popular at the time, which was Glad to Be Gay. There were little badges that people were wearing, but we were so closeted at that time that a lot of people were wearing the badges in the clubs and then taking them off when they went out on the street. And at the same time, the police were beating the shit out of gay people. Not so much lesbians, it was gay men that they were going for at that time. And so I wrote a song that was sarcastic, saying, sing if you're glad to be gay, and then it just listed all the kind of horrible things that the police and indeed everybody else was doing to us at the time. And punk rock happened around that time. And I went to see the Sex Pistols at the 100 Club in London, and it was so provocative, it was so unlike anything that we'd seen before. I thought, well, I'd like to be in a band that has that sort of impact. But I was 10 years too old to be a punk rocker at that time. I was in my late 20s. So I just formed a regular rock band, modestly known as the Tom Robinson Band. And we tried out that song, Sing If You're Glad to Be Gay, on straight audiences, because that was our kind of version of punk rock. It was like to see if you could get a reaction off people. And bizarrely, instead of bottling us off the stage, they loved it. They used to sing along. In fact, quite often you could tell the closet gays in the audience because they weren't singing. And all the straight people who were secure in their sexuality would be going, sing if you're glad to be gay, no problem. All the secure gay people were going, sing if you're glad to be gay. And then you'd always see these people going, do you see me singing? No, nothing queer about me. And we put it out on an EP, and it got to number 18 in the UK charts on EMI Records. And it became a bit of an anthem. I mean, I have to say, certainly in Britain, it became quite a well-known song. When we said gay back in the early 70s, gay didn't mean the narrow meaning it means today. Gay, as in the gay liberation movement born out of the Stonewall, was an all-embracing term. It covered every shade and flavour of sexuality and gender that you could possibly imagine in all its wild diversity. And that was the wonderful thing about it. You know, it was an inclusive term. It meant all of us who are not straight. And so, over the years, I have found, having said to young, allegedly straight men, you know, maybe you should consider your wider possibilities, that came around to bite me in the arse in my mid-30s, because I went to a gay and lesbian switchboard benefit concert and fell in love with the man of my dreams, who turned out to be a woman. And that was extremely inconvenient, but, you know, gay liberation being what it was about being who you are and having the right to love anybody you want. And I exercised that right, and the tabloid newspapers got hold of the story, and they actually ran a story that said, Britain's #1 gay in love with girl biker. It was just hilariously awful. They made everything up. But I went and played my usual song at Pride that year, and some people booed because they thought I'd been talking to these scumbag journalists about, you know, boasting about how I'd gone straight or something. Whereas, you know, 10 years later, I turn up at the Bi tent at Pride, and it was like a homecoming. You know, you walked up on the stage, and people said, "Where have you been, Tom?" And I said, "Making babies," and they all cheered. Fantastic. So, sexuality is a many splendid bloody thing. It's every possible shade of diversity, and standing together in solidarity and pride and leaving everyone the space to be who they are. Hi, my name's Tom Robinson of the modestly named Tom Robinson Band, who had the distinction of getting a song called Sing If You're Glad to Be Gay into the UK Top 20. And although my domestic circumstances have changed a little over the years, I still stand by every word.
Customers up by the wall, picking out people, knocking them down, resisting arrest as they're kicked on the ground, searching their houses, calling them queer. I don't believe that sort of thing happens here. Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Pictures of naked young women are fun in tidbits of Playboy, page 3 of The Sun. There's no nudes in Gay News or One magazine, but they still found excuses to call it obscene. Read how disgusting we are in the press. The Telegraph, People and Sunday Express. Molesters of children, corrupters of youth. It's there in the paper, it must be the truth. Try and sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Don't try to kid us that if you're discreet, you're perfectly safe as you walk down the street. You don't have to mince or make big bitchy remarks to get beaten unconscious and left in the dark. I had a friend who was gentle and short. He was lonely one evening, he went for a walk. Queer bashers caught him, kicked in his teeth. He was only hospitalized for a week, and he still bears the scars. Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. And sit back and watch as they close down our clubs, arrest us for meeting and raid all our pubs. Make sure your boyfriend's at least 21, so only your friends and your brothers get done. Lie to your workmates, lie to your folks. Put down the Queen's, tell anti-queer jokes. Gay lives ridiculous, join their laughter. The buggers are legal now. What more are they after? Tell them. Say if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy this way.
Hi, I'm singer-songwriter Steve Grand, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara. It's CIUT 89.5 FM.
She has increased entertainers' profiles in the arts and entertainment, securing major media coverage for over 15 years. Up next, PR expert, personal brand coach, and podcaster, Diane Foy. She is an entertainment publicist, a podcaster, and a personal brand coach. She is Diane Foy. Hi.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me in today.
So first of all, thank you for taking your time to be here in studio to have your voice and your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Let's start here. PR, 15 years in the business. First of all, how did you get into the world of public relations? How did this happen for you?
Okay. So I've had a lot of careers. I started out as a photographer, and then I was a makeup artist for a really long time. And I even did some journalism. And I guess I started to figure out that everything I'd done to that point has been because I love performing artists. I love music. I love entertainment, and I just wanted to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be around performing artists. So with that realization, I went to school at Travis for entertainment management. And I kind of thought before going in, it would be publicity that I would end up doing, because I was kind of already qualified, for everything that I've done to be a publicist. But I talked to some publicists, and they're like, well, it's hard to get into the industry. So school would help. For networking and just kind of get you more into the business side of entertainment. So I did that, and I interned with Cam Carpenter. You were just mentioning him for Indie Week. So I interned with him. And when I finished school, I didn't really want a real job. So I was with MAC Cosmetics for a long time, and I love the creativity part of it, but it was getting a little bit more corporate. So I was like, no, I do not want to work for major labels or anything like that. So I just kind of started doing it.
Yeah.
Started doing publicity for my musician friends and started getting them press pretty quickly. And there was a manager that was managing one of my friends' bands, and I had gotten them a full page in the Star art section. And
That's impressive.
I think their manager went, who, what, when, how? Like, what? I need to talk to her.
Yeah.
So that was Brian Heatherman. I thank him. And, he started hiring me for his other bands. And just little by little, I was getting hired and quickly raising my rate and, just kept doing it.
Do you have a performance background?
I do not. It's kind of I'm a wannabe.
Uh-huh. You have a love of.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. But also, too, I think what it is that you do is a talent within itself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why public relations? Why PR?
I like the promotion part of it. And it does take in the writing skills that I had. And I think because I love the performers so much, I want them, I'm so invested and I want them to do well and I want people to know who they are. So that's kind of what a publicist does is just tells the world how great this artist is. And a lot of times artists are not the best at promoting themselves. So a publicist comes in and picks out the things that they know media or the general public music fans would know or would want to know and be interested. And it's a way of, describing what makes that artist so great.
Who would you say is your typical client? Or is there a typical client?
Yeah. And it's changed over the years too. When I started, I was working with a lot of rock bands. But now I don't know if I even work with a lot of rock bands, except DOA. My Punk Legends DOA. I've been working with DOA for, 12 years, like a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
They're legends.
They're legends. So I like my rock and roll, but then I'm also a country girl and, hip hop. I like everything. So it goes in phases, I find. Mostly in the last couple of years, it's been a lot of alt country, Americana, some pop
Solo
dance.
acts?
Some solo, some bands.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so who are some of your current clients?
So I have Tamara Madeline. She's the kind of Americana girl. And if you like Sheryl Crow and Stevie Nicks and that kind of vibe, she's going to be up your alley. And then I have this other project that's really cool that is with Indigenous artists. So there's a producer named Thor Simonson, and he kind of goes around to different towns and communities up in Nunavut and brings music education to the communities. They teach instruments, they teach songwriting, they teach producing, and some of the artists end up being signed to his label. And so they're releasing a compilation of different Indigenous Inuit artists. But the album is really eclectic. There's some hip hop on there, and then there's some singer-songwriter stuff. It's really cool.
Are there some typical mistakes that artists make when they first come to see you that you recognize and you seem to see time and time again, especially when it comes to indie artists?
Right. For the most part, a lot of people come to me and they're just not ready.
They're not ready for what?
They don't have their stuff together because it's getting actual press and getting media coverage is harder and harder now. So much harder than when I started. So unless you have all your branding fantastic, you have a little bit of following, you have social media activity, and you just have a lot going on, you're touring, unless you have all that, it's really hard to get press. So a lot of them will come to me and they're like, well, I have a single or I have an album.
And that's it?
And that's it, Okay. And then I'm like, well, your social media is not that active. You need to get that up. I always put it like this, like these days for media, especially I guess in terms of blogs, where a lot of indie artists get their first kind of press is music blogs or entertainment blogs. They want new visitors to their site. And so if they're going to spend the time on interviewing the artist and writing an article and promoting it, like, what's in it for them? Mm-hmm. And if they want you to share it on your social media, and if you don't really have a lot of following, then they're not going to get a lot of hits. And they're going to rather pick an artist that does have all that. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to, I kind of am very realistic, and I tell people that, like, I don't want you to hire me if I don't think I can get you much. And to help artists, like, get there. Mm. And I think a lot of artists, they don't know. They just don't know what to do. They know they have this music, they know they love, and they, I work with actors too, so same thing. They have all this talent and they want to get out there, but they don't know how. And often the publicist is kind of the first person that they kind of hire to be part of their team. Mm. But a lot of it is just they don't know what to do. So they're like, can you help me?
Yeah. Well said. On that note, let's take a break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp of the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on CIUT 89.5 FM.
Personal brand coaching. Diane Foy, what is personal brand coaching?
Well, I've been playing with the name, so I right now that's what I'm going for. But I find I understand artists, and a lot of artists are, when you mentioned brand marketing, anything like that, they want to run the other way. So I'm working with the title. But personal brand coaching to me is helping someone take everything that they are, their interests, their personality, their image, their desires and goals, and everything about them and their talents, and telling them how to express that to the world, to attract. Like for artists, it's like I help them develop an authentic personal brand so that they can attract loyal fans, followers, industry supporters, and without kind of being overwhelmed and not really knowing what to do. Mm-hmm. So it's having someone that can kind of coach you step by step on how to get there.
So walk me through how this works. Someone is coming to you for personal brand coaching.
Right.
I love it. And so what happens? Do you sit down with them? Is this done in person, email, Skype?
Usually.
All of the above? Usually
it's through Zoom.
Okay, what's Zoom?
I say it's like Skype, but better.
Okay. Okay.
It's just, there's no issues with Zoom. I know Skype sometimes is clicky but Zoom, crystal clear quality.
Okay.
And so it is over the internet. You can do it on your phone, whatever. You can do video or you could just do audio. And say I meet with them once a week. I've developed this program that is about 12 weeks long, and it is for those performers and artists that need to figure all that stuff out before they do the publicity and marketing. So I would, we go through visions, like what is it that you see your life as 5-10 years from now? What is it that you truly want? Then get into goal setting. Let's break that down. Okay, if you want that life at 10 years, where do you got to be at 5 years? Where do you got to be a year from now? And just breaking it down backwards. And also I find it helps figure out if your goals are realistic. Because you might break that down and go, I can't possibly do all that in the next year. So you got to break it down even further. But at least it kind of shows you if you're on the right track.
Right.
And then once we go through goal setting, then it's like, okay, so what is your why? What is the motivation? Because if you know that, then when all the struggles come up, you'll keep going. You'll be motivated because you're very clear on why you do what you do. We go through your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses, personality, image. We go through all that. That's like 8 weeks. Sorry. You know, it's most people skip this step. And I know this because I've done it. Like, you know, you skip those steps and then wonder why you're struggling and wondering why, like, you're not getting to where you want to go. So then a little bit of, you know, the foundation of marketing, just kind of figuring out who is your audience. Who are you wanting to attract to you? Figuring that out. And so when you're done, you have a base, and everything else, I think, comes a lot easier once you know that.
Do you find a lot of indie art, especially indie artists, do you find that when they come to see you that they don't have a real handle on social media and how to use it effectively?
Yes.
Or do you find that they do know how to use it effectively?
There are some that rock at it, but a lot of them struggle with it.
It can be all encompassing, social media.
Yeah.
You know, like the various platforms.
Yeah. And it's just something you have to do. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like for the ones that say, oh, I'm not into it, I don't like it. Well, tough. You know,
you have to get the word out.
You have to. And I think also with that foundation coaching that I was talking about, you're going to know what to put on social media because you're going to be very confident, you know, on who you are, what you have to offer, who your audience is. And a lot of those other things will come a lot easier. So yeah, social media is very important. And I do find a lot of artists struggle with it. They're not comfortable with it. They don't know what to post. They don't, you know, and so that's a part of it as well, coaching and PR.
And that's a part of technology, social media. So let's talk about technology and how it's maybe enhanced your coaching, your PR business. How has that enhanced your business? Because you've been doing this 15 years. You've come from, you know, prior to the advent of the iPhone, which was in 2007.
Right.
And, you know, the internet, social media, all that sort of stuff. So how have you seen your business evolve because of technology?
Right. When I started, it was kind of interesting because to me, it just made sense to promote my artists through social media and through blogs. And yet I would notice every other publicist is not doing that. I found it strange, but I think I came into it just as things were changing maybe.
Right.
And so a lot of the publicists that have been doing it for longer than me were just kind of, well, this is how I do it.
They were stuck in the old way.
Yeah. And they weren't embracing social media and blogs. Whereas I'm like, if I'm working with unknown indies, well, the Toronto Star might not be interested. Yeah. But this music blog, who's like a crazy music fan, they want to discover new artists. So I was starting to get a lot of publicity for my artists through blogs. And also the thing about blogs and the internet in general is you can think outside of Canada now. So I work music blogs internationally. So if your genre is rock or punk or country, whatever it is, I can target blogs around the world who
That's interesting.
Focus on that. So you don't have to think just Canada.
Are there regions in the world that are more receptive to Canadian acts?
I don't know about Canadian, but certain genres.
Okay.
Like, oddly, the UK loves Americana.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. They love Americana. So there's things like that you discover. And a lot of, rock, Germany. They love rock, hard rock.
Wow. Can we talk about some celebrities and PR and do's and don'ts?
Sure.
So are there do's and don'ts when it comes to representing celebrities?
Well, I think with anyone, the publicist should protect your privacy and kind of talk to you about, what you should and shouldn't be saying out there. But also maybe if you've already kind of hit a certain level, well, you could tell the publicist I'm sick of talking about this. So we can kind of tell the interviewer, okay,
Right.
doesn't really want to talk about that today, and focus it that way.
And how, when it comes to the interviewer and you say, no questions about X, Y, and Z, how do you find the interviewer's response?
They're usually fine with it.
Okay.
We're all working together.
Right.
I haven't had to deal with, super insane celebrity where they're after the gossip kind of thing.
Right.
But I have worked with some well-known artists and, that comes with a whole other, set of issues because maybe when it's a bigger artist, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Right. Their entourage.
Or just the artist might say one thing, but then a manager says another, and then the U.S. publicist or someone says something else,
Right.
and you're like, who do I listen to?
So who do you listen to?
I think I go with who it was my point person. And I think with most of the bigger names that I've worked with, it has been directly with the artist. Or there's a manager. So there is a point person. That's also too what you talk about at the beginning is who is the person that has the ultimate say. And there are some managers that want to be the in-between person. And I find this part really strange, but there are managers that don't even want the artist to talk to the publicist or vice versa. And I always find that really strange because I'm like, but I'm the person that you want promoting the artist.
Right. Why do you think that is?
I think it's managers, they don't want other voices in the artist's ear. And usually I get along so well with the artists and, we joke and talk about that, how that manager doesn't want us talking, But I think it is because they don't want other people to be giving them advice in the ear that might go against what their advice is.
Any interesting stories that come to mind, stories that may be, a little challenging or really great stories that you would care to share? Maybe not necessarily mentioning any names, but anything come to mind?
Well, there are things that happen when you're an independent, and there was a situation where I was working with a big rock star, and I was pitching this rock star to the different media outlets, and he had left the major label. So that's why I was doing the pitching. But then there was some in between. There's some media that went straight to the major label wondering why this chick is pitching him, and it got really complicated because then that media person lied and said I was saying, oh, you can't have him without this, or, and I'm like, that's so not what I would do, but, so there are complications like that. Right. And you're like, yeah, he left the label. That's why I'm, pitching him. Things like industry, things like that. And then there's also, even pitching, whereas someone on the team says, oh, he wants to do live performances on every radio that he does. And then when the day comes, oh no, he can't do another performance. I'm like, well, you told me to book, So that
sounds like a lot of politics.
Yeah. When there are a lot of people that you got to deal with, Yeah.
So how does Diane Foy keep sane when you're trying to do the pitching and get your clients publicity and you have to deal with all these personalities? What keeps you sane?
On the couple situations that I just talked about, I kind of go, they're the worst days and the best day all in one. Because I'd be like, I can't deal with this. This is not me. I break down. But then the band starts live and I'm like, I was going to quit, but it's that passion for music and passion for the artists. And sometimes it's the other stuff that gets in the way, but me and talent are always great together. We all get along. It's sometimes the outside forces that make everything complicated.
Yeah.
But it's the love of the music. It's love of, actors and performers. And it's just wanting them to do well and being that fan. Ultimately, I'm still a fan. So when I see that talent, it gets me excited. And then I'm like, okay, I'm back.
Well said. Diane Foy, on that note, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Cool.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on CIUT 895 FM, discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally and right here in Toronto, and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Community announcements. On Friday, January 24th, 2 newly named laneways in the Church Wellesley Village were unveiled. Dapper Lane, off of Wellesley Street, acknowledges the history of barbershops serving everyone in the Church Wellesley Village. And Anvil Alley, off of Church Street, pays tribute to Dudley's Hardware Store, serving Toronto's gay village since 1934. From director David Charles Rodriguez comes a powerful documentary about LGBT human rights in the American South. Gay Chorus, Deep South.
There's a storm, and we have to learn to dance with the storm.
This is just like the Civil Rights Movement. A lot of our rights are being violated.
In 33 states, you can still be fired or kicked out of your home for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender.
When the election happened, our board chair said, why don't we go to the South?
The Gay Men's Chorus in San Francisco. We're going around to cities all around the South promoting unity and peace.
I would have never thought to go back home.
I was 35 years old, beautiful wife, and 2 beautiful children when I came out. No, you don't need to clap. It was shit. So
the church said, you're going to say goodbye to your kids, and you're not going to come back. Each of the 300 singers comes with special painful baggage.
I have cancer now.
How long has it been since you and your dad have had a conversation?
6 or 7 years. He said he wished I'd never been born.
There's no way I can hide in the South looking the way that I do.
This is the place where my life turned to hell. But I'm more angry that it's happening to kids right now.
When I started to date this trans guy, my parents took me out of high school and kicked me out of the house.
No, you gotta bring the fight to the South, man. Quit acting like everybody won't accept you, because that is never gonna happen. Bunch of perverts.
It's really, really frightening. It's frightening for me. I'm not interested in tolerance. I don't need to be tolerated. The harder step is to celebrate the uniqueness. I just haven't felt the nudge to do that.
I'm sorry, you want to do what in the South? Like, did anyone ask?
God clearly says homosexuality is an abomination. He didn't create people like this.
Our focus is every person that we do meet has an interaction that changes them.
There's an 83-year-old woman in this church. This morning, she came up to me after worship, and she said, I get it. And it was largely because you all were here.
Really good. I enjoyed it.
That concert opened the door, a big wave of love.
I am love.
I made a quilt for you as a reminder that you will always find people, even in the most unlikely of places, that want to wrap you in the warmth of friendship and understanding and acceptance.
have allowed me to come home. And we want to thank you for that.
Music heals. It's healing me.
Gay Chorus Deep South is part of the Human Rights Watch Film Festival. Saturday, February 1st, Hot Docs, Ted Rogers Cinema, 7:30 p.m. And by the way, tickets to the festival are free. For more information, go to hotdoccinema.ca.
Hey, this is Michelle Tracy. I'm a singer-songwriter, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on CIUT 89.5 FM.
Sing, dance, act, thrive. Podcasting. Diane Foy, this is your podcast.
Yes.
First of all, how long have you been podcasting?
So I think I started it launched in April, March. Can't remember.
2019?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was about a year ago that I was just starting to do some interviews and planning the whole thing. But yeah.
How are you finding it?
It's a lot of work. But I love it. It's got, now I'm in the flow of it. It doesn't take me as long as it used to. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, it was like a little bit more perfectionist, and the audio editing, I was learning it as I was doing it. Okay. So I'd be up all night.
Do you do a lot of editing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much anymore, because I think also going through that, I started to learn how to make the interviews better so there'd be less editing. Mm-hmm. So at first I was just going with the flow, getting everything, and then, there might be parts where I take out and blah, blah, blah. But now it's just like, okay, let's just get to it. And also I know how to do the levels and all that now, so it's a lot quicker.
Yeah. Welcome to the club.
Yes. I love the interview part.
Do you like the research part?
I do. I don't say I do a lot of it though, because I'm mostly interviewing performers or industry people, and for the most part, I've kind of already knew who they were.
Okay.
So maybe I did a little research just to remind myself or figuring out the questions. Okay. But I guess I love that part because I love the research part.
Okay.
Love finding out things about people, but
yeah.
I kind of do that anyways.
Why podcasting? Why get into this?
So I probably started thinking about it when I was getting into coaching. Basically, I was learning the stuff that I teach now is to kind of put myself out there. Yeah, I'm used to being the behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. So in order to promote my own personal brand, I needed to put myself out there more. And also I feel like the reason also I got into coaching is I have so much knowledge and experience to share, and that will help people. And so podcasting is a way of getting that out there of I do some solo coaching shows, where I will kind of coach on different topics. And then also I want to talk to successful performing artists so that the up and comers can have inspiration and also hear the reality. I want to hear the ups and downs. I want to hear about the struggles, because you don't always hear about that. And so up and coming artists are like, oh, I want that person's career. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to talk to that person, and it's not, they're still struggling off the times, and who they are, So that's been really cool. And then I talked to some industry people as well about their advice for artists. So.
And so your podcast, how often do you do it?
Weekly.
So once a week?
Yeah.
Okay. And when do you release it?
Well,
it fluctuates?
Yeah. I say every Thursday. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, I've stuck to that. Mm-hmm. But there has been some weeks that, last week, I didn't release one. So that's kind of my goal for next year, is to be more consistent with it. And But in the beginning, I was killing myself to make that deadline. Yeah, I would literally stay up all night. Right. If I say Thursday morning or Wednesday morning is when I'm going to release it, I will be up and releasing it at 9 o'clock that morning, you know? And it was killing me because I have so many other things that I do. So I kind of started to go, you know what? The world's not going to end if I miss a week. And in August, I think I actually took about 4 weeks off. And oddly, my downloads increased. So I think taking a break is good.
How have you found the response been to your podcast?
It is hard to get a following. I find it's been slow, but I knew that going in. And
there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah. And it's just trying to, and I find also there's a lot of people who have never listened to a podcast. It's just not their world yet. So sometimes you say you're doing it and they're like, oh yeah, but they don't really know how to do it. So there's still a ways to go, but it's growing so much and more people are getting into podcasting. And when I started listening to podcasts, I just loved the intimate conversations that you would hear. And I love the long format because when you are interviewing more well-known artists, you know, that everyone else interviews, usually it's short, 15-minute tops, and you get the sound bites. But with podcasting, there's no time limit. Yeah. So, and I always say you get some gold at about 40 minutes, you know?
Okay.
30, 40 minutes. Because about 30 minutes, you're kind of done.
Warming up.
Yeah. The first 30 minutes, you're talking about all the stuff that they expect to be asked in an interview. And sometimes you kind of run out, but then you got the flow going, and then people start opening up and talking about more personal things or just things that they haven't really talked about before.
So how are you doing your interviews? Is it one-on-one? Is it
one-on-one?
In person?
Sometimes in person, but mostly over Zoom.
Okay.
It's like Skype. So, yeah, it depends. There's been some conferences and events where I had the opportunity to do some in-person stuff. I didn't like it as much because, again, you are on like a time limit. If you're at a conference, they only have half hour to give you. Right. But other times, I got to go to Biff Naked's house. That was very exciting because I was a fan of hers. So in that sense, like in person is really cool because I got to her house and we talked for over an hour.
And it sounds like you're mobile.
Yeah.
Your setup is mobile.
Yeah. So I have a little Zoom recorder and then some mics. And then I'm good to go.
Well done. So I'm curious to know, you do PR, you do coaching, podcasting. Are you finding that being involved in those various aspects are making you, Diane Foy, a better businesswoman?
I'm learning how to embrace everything that I do. For a long time, everyone tells you to be successful, you have to pick one thing, stick to it, don't give up. Don't get distracted by all the other million things you think you want to do. And I always hated that advice because I'm like, but I want to do this, but I want to do that. I'm going in a million different directions all the time. And for a while, it was a negative impact because I didn't really set goals, break it down, what I'm teaching now. I was a go with the flower. And so if I pick up a new interest, I'm 100% all in.
Right.
And I might forget what I was supposed to be doing over there, you know, and, I want to do this now. And I'm off in that direction. And when trying to I just decided I was going to embrace that. And that would be my brand. I'm multi-talented, multi-passionate. And then I saw a TED Talk. Her name is Emily something. I can't remember. But she calls it multi-potentialite. And the TED Talk was just like, she was speaking to me. She's telling my story of how everyone tells you got to be this one thing when you grow up, and how the way she described, like, I am in a punk band and I'm going to give all my efforts to that. And then I wanted to be a lawyer. So I went to law school and everyone thinks you're crazy, right? But she learned to embrace that. And I'm like, see, I told you I was right. I was going to do that too. So now I embrace the multi-potentialite. But I also bring in the branding and coaching thing that I'm teaching. So I've had to put some of my interests on hold. because they're right in some sense. You do need to have some focus to get where you want to go, but there are ways of doing it so that you embrace your multi-talentedness. So I kind of am sticking to the PR coaching podcast thing for now. And when that kind of keeps going, I'll just have time for my little hobbies or side projects that I like to do.
So what else might you branch off into?
Well, because I started out as a photographer, sometimes I bring that back up and I get into a photography phase and I want to do that again. But I don't think I ever want that to be my main thing. Like my main thing is, I think, coaching, you know. I still do PR, but 10 years from now, maybe I won't be doing PR and it'll just be coaching.
Yeah. So where do you feel most comfortable? Is it coaching? Is it PR? Is it doing the podcast, photography? Where does Diane Foy feel most comfortable?
Well, I think when it comes to other people, I like maybe the one-on-one, whether it's coaching or interviewing. I am someone that works better one-on-one. I do like socializing in networking situations, but it's always when I'm one-on-one with someone that I'm more comfortable. And I love, you know, getting to know people in that way. And I find the coaching, I've only been doing the coaching for a couple of years now. I took kind of 2017 and I really hardly worked at all. And I just studied. I took every course there was on coaching and marketing and all that stuff and trying to figure out how I can share what I know. And so since then, now it's great that I have a bit of a format on how to do it. I think I was always coaching as a publicist, especially when you are working with indies, because you're their person that they can ask advice for. And I've always liked that part, so I want to do more of it. And coaching is like the structure, I guess, that I can do that more and help people more.
So if people want to find out all about Diane Foy, how can they do that?
Okay. So I have two websites, dianefoy.com and singdanceactthrive.com. If you go to either, you can link. They link to each other. On all social media, I'm Diane Foy PR. And that's it.
Easy. Diane Foy PR on socials. Love it. Before I let you go, 3 quick questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Red or white?
Red.
Day or night?
Night.
Leather or lace?
Leather.
Ooh, Diane Foy, I love it. Thanks for your time and thanks for being on the show.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Hello, my name is Conchita. And I'm Barbecue. And my name is Hardcora. And we are the Beat Girls. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on CIUT 89.5 FM. Break free, break all the rules, just be girls.
Special thanks to British rocker Tom Robinson and PR expert Diane Foy for being on Rainbow Country, episode 185. To keep up to date with all things country, Rainbow Country, follow me on socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, at Mark Tara Music. Want to be on the show? Maybe you know someone who should be on Rainbow Country. Send me an email, mark@marktara.com. The podcast for Rainbow Country is on iTunes, Podomatic.com, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, and on Spotify. So get Rainbow Country wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Plus, the official Rainbow Country playlist is on Spotify. And by the way, last week we were number 4 on Podomatic's Gay and Lesbian chart, and that is because of you. Next week, it's my very first Oscars episode. Oscars 2020. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, We live in days of making dreams come true. So believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, I'm Mayor John Tory, and you're listening to CIUT 89.5 FM.